Ladies and gentlemen, let's just take a moment and talk about reality, not the kind that is polished and filtered, not the kind that's softened so it doesn't make anyone uncomfortable, but the raw, unapologetic reality that so many people spend their lives hiding from. The truth is, the human body has been politicized, shamed, covered, and judged for centuries, and yet it remains the most natural and universal thing we all share. Think about how absurd it is that something as ordinary, as essential, as human, has been turned into something controversial. When we talk about women, we're talking about the very source of life, of nourishment, of strength, and yet the parts of their bodies that symbolize creation and resilience are often treated as secrets, as something shocking, when in truth they are simply reality revealed. The only thing shocking is how long we've all agreed to play along with the lie that this reality should be hidden. You see, it's not really about a body part, it's about the way society conditions women to carry shame. Shame about how they look, about how they sound, about how much space they take up in the world. Shame about their voices being too loud, shame about their dreams being too big, shame about their power being too intimidating. And that shame starts somewhere small, in whispered tones and sideways glances, in rules about what's decent and what isn't, in the subtle but constant messages that tell women, you are too much and not enough all at once. That is the real shocking reality, the invisible cage that so many walk in without ever realizing they can break free. When we say reality revealed, what we mean is permission. Permission to own who you are without apology. Permission to stop covering what's natural, whether that's your body, your ambition, your emotions, or your voice. Because here's the thing, every single time someone reveals the truth of who they are, it feels shocking at first, but only because the world has spent so long pretending it doesn't exist. The first time a woman says out loud, "This is me and I'm not ashamed," it shakes the ground beneath people who've built their lives on controlling her silence. The first time a woman refuses to shrink, refuses to hide, refuses to cover up, it looks rebellious, but really, it's just reality finally stepping into the light. And I want you to really sit with this idea, that what you've been taught to hide is actually the core of your strength. The very parts of you that feel vulnerable, that feel exposed, that feel risky to show, that's where your power lives. That's where your truth breathes. That's where connection is born. Because you can't connect with people when you're wearing masks. You can't build intimacy with the world when you're busy covering up. Real connection only comes when you reveal, and revelation always feels a little shocking, but it's also liberating. So the reality revealed isn't just about women and their bodies. It's about humanity and its fear of authenticity. It's about how uncomfortable we've made ourselves with the truth. But here's the hope, truth doesn't stay hidden forever. You can try to bury it under shame, under silence, under rules and expectations, but eventually truth demands to be seen. And when it is, when women stop apologizing for being real, for being human, for being powerful, for being enough, that's when change happens. That's when the shocking reality becomes not something to fear, but something to celebrate. And let me tell you this, the moment you stop hiding the truth of who you are, the world has no choice but to adjust. People may look twice, they may whisper, they may resist, but deep down, something in them knows they're witnessing courage. And courage has a way of spreading. Courage has a way of lighting fires in other people's hearts. That's why revealing your reality matters, not just for you, but for every single person watching, waiting for proof that they, too, can be real. Because the shocking reality isn't women's nipples, the shocking reality is how powerful a woman becomes when she decides she will not carry shame anymore. The shocking reality is that authenticity is the most radical act in a world built on pretending. The shocking reality is that once you see the truth, you can't unsee it, and that means you can't go back to hiding without feeling like you're suffocating. The shocking reality is that freedom starts the moment shame ends, and shame ends the moment you decide to reveal what's real. So if you are listening right now and you've been holding parts of yourself back, if you've been covering up your truth because you're afraid of how shocking it might seem, I'm here to tell you, the only thing shocking is how long you've kept yourself locked away. The world is not waiting for another mask, another performance, another version of you trimmed down to fit someone else's comfort zone. The world is waiting for you, the raw, unapologetic, unfiltered you. And when you reveal that, you don't just set yourself free, you open the door for everyone else to follow. Keynote 1, shame is learned, not natural, and it's the first chain to break if you want freedom. Shame is one of the heaviest emotions a person can carry, and yet it is not something we are born with, it is something that is taught. Think about a newborn child, pure, untouched by the world's judgments, existing without self-consciousness, without the concept of too much, or not enough. That child does not feel shame about their body, about their voice, about their desires, because shame does not exist in nature. Shame is planted, reinforced, and repeated until it grows like vines that wrap around the way you see yourself. And when you start to realize that shame is not a natural state, but a conditioned one, it changes everything. It makes you question who handed you that shame in the first place, and why you've been carrying it for so long. Shame shows up in subtle ways. It shows up when you hesitate to speak because you're worried about being judged. It shows up when you second-guess your choices because someone else might not approve. It shows up when you look at yourself in the mirror and hear the echo of criticisms that were never yours to begin with. And the more you let shame lead, the smaller your life becomes. You hold back in conversations, you avoid risks, you cover parts of yourself, physically and emotionally, because the fear of exposure feels too great. But what you don't realize is that every time you shrink because of shame, you're not protecting yourself, you're imprisoning yourself. The chain of shame keeps you in cycles of silence and self-doubt, and it convinces you that this is just the way life is. But the truth is, freedom doesn't come from avoiding judgment, freedom comes from releasing shame. Once you understand that it was never yours to begin with, that it was handed down by culture, by family, by institutions, by voices that wanted control more than they wanted truth, you begin to see it for what it is, a chain. And like any chain, it can be broken. The first step to freedom is recognizing that this emotion that has weighed on you for so long is not innate, it is learned. You learned it through repetition, you absorbed it through messages, but what is learned can be unlearned. And the moment you begin to peel back the layers of shame, you create space for confidence, for courage, for authenticity to take root, because shame and freedom cannot live in the same space, and when you choose to break one, you begin to unlock the other. From the earliest moments of life, people are told to cover up, to fit in, to tone down the very things that make them unique. For women especially, the messages are relentless: don't be too loud, don't be too bold, don't draw too much attention, don't express too much desire, don't reveal too much of yourself. Over and over again, the world teaches that the parts of you that stand out are somehow wrong, that the things that are most natural about you should be disguised. And yet, if you stop and look closely, you'll notice that those very things are the ones that carry your deepest power. The things you were told to hide are often the exact things that set you apart, that make you magnetic, that hold the essence of your strength. When you look at the way society has worked, hiding has always been a tool of control. If you can convince someone that their natural self is inappropriate, you can keep them quiet. If you can shame someone into covering their body, their feelings, their ambition, you can keep them small. But what happens when you reverse that? What happens when instead of hiding, you reveal? You start to realize that the world's discomfort is not a reflection of your weakness but of your power. Because the truth is, your strength will always feel intimidating to people who are used to controlling you. The moment you show what you were told to conceal, you not only reclaim your own power, you remind others of the power they've buried inside themselves. It is in the voice that speaks after years of silence. It is in the dream that refuses to die even after countless rejections. It is in the body that exists unapologetically after generations of being told to shrink. These are not weaknesses, these are not flaws, these are not mistakes to be corrected, they are the very sources of strength. And the reason they were covered in shame in the first place is because someone else knew how powerful they could be if they were revealed. Think about that for a moment. The world doesn't waste time trying to suppress what is insignificant. The things you're told to hide are the things that could change you, change others, change everything. And if you can begin to uncover them, if you can begin to embrace what was once buried under fear and silence, you step into a kind of strength that is unshakable, because it comes not from performing for the world, but from revealing the truth of who you already are. When someone chooses to live authentically, it has a way of stopping people in their tracks. The reason isn't that authenticity itself is strange or unnatural, it's that most people have been trained to wear masks for so long that when they finally see someone standing without one, it feels like a jolt. Think about how rare it is to see someone truly unfiltered, unafraid to show both their flaws and their strengths, unafraid to be exactly who they are without editing themselves to fit expectations. It feels shocking, not because authenticity is radical, but because the world has buried it so deeply under layers of pretense and performance that it becomes unusual to witness. The truth is that authenticity is the most natural state of being. It's the way we start out in life, honest and real, without second-guessing every word, every gesture, every expression. But as time passes, people begin to learn the rules of acceptance. They learn what is praised and what is punished. They learn which parts of themselves are celebrated and which parts are criticized. Slowly, they begin to adjust, to edit, to cover, to filter. By adulthood, many people are living as a curated version of themselves, carefully shaped to avoid judgment. So when someone dares to break that mold and show up raw, open, and real, it disrupts the pattern. It feels shocking because it reminds everyone else of what they lost along the way. That feeling of shock is actually recognition. It's the sudden awareness that truth still exists, that you can still live in alignment with who you really are. And while at first it can make people uncomfortable, it also awakens something in them. It shows them what's possible, what they've been longing for but were too afraid to embrace. Authenticity may feel shocking at the start, but eventually, it becomes magnetic. People are drawn to it because deep down, everyone craves the freedom that comes with living without masks. They crave the relief of no longer pretending, of no longer carrying the weight of performance. And the person brave enough to live authentically becomes proof that it can be done. So when you feel that living your truth might be too much, remember that the discomfort isn't a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that the world has grown too accustomed to false versions of reality. The shock that comes with authenticity isn't a reason to hide, it's proof that you're revealing something powerful, something that has been missing for too long, something that others secretly long to experience first. Revealing your reality inspires courage in others to do the same. Human beings are wired to mirror each other. We learn by watching, we adapt by observing, we find strength by witnessing someone else go first. That's why every single act of courage, no matter how small it may seem, carries a ripple effect far beyond what the person doing it can imagine. When you choose to reveal your reality, when you stop hiding and step into authenticity, you are not just making a decision for yourself, you are opening a door for others who are silently waiting for proof that it is safe to step through. Courage is contagious, and when people see you living your truth, they begin to realize that they too can live theirs. Think about the moments in your own life when you have felt inspired. Chances are it wasn't when someone delivered a perfect, polished version of themselves. It was when you saw someone raw, real, unafraid to admit their flaws, unafraid to show their scars, unafraid to stand tall in their truth even when it was uncomfortable. That is what strikes a chord, that is what makes you sit up and pay attention. Because deep down, everyone is craving the permission to be real, and when someone else dares to do it, it grants that permission silently, powerfully, without even needing to say the words. You think to yourself, if they can do it, maybe I can too. This is how movements are born, not from perfection but from honesty. One person reveals their reality, and suddenly others find the courage to share theirs. One voice rises, and soon a chorus builds. It is never just about the individual, it is always about the collective chain reaction that follows. Every time you reveal your truth, you are sending out a signal that tells others they are not alone. You are reminding them that the things they've been hiding, the parts of themselves they've been ashamed of, are not weaknesses but simply reality waiting to be seen. And that reminder can be the spark that changes the trajectory of someone's life. What's powerful about this ripple effect is that it doesn't require grand gestures. Even the smallest act of authenticity can create waves. A conversation where you speak honestly, a choice to stop apologizing for who you are, a refusal to shrink back when someone tries to silence you, these are acts of courage, and they do not go unnoticed. Someone watching, someone listening, Someone close or even a stranger may take that moment and carry it as fuel for their own courage. This is how the cycle continues, one person revealing, another person following, until what once felt shocking becomes normal, and what once felt impossible becomes the standard.